For those of you who don't know my name, it's Katie Lewis, and this year I am finally graduating from Brookfield High School. I have been coming to this church for a long time, but started attending like every Sunday in middle school. During this time, I was always shy and nervous about nearly everything, but a lot has changed as I grew up in this place. Over the years, I have learned hopefully something in high school, but through this place, I have truly learned the sense of community. I can easily look around and find people who've been supporters, teachers, and friends. I'm most grateful for the missionary work I was able to accomplish because of this place. Living in a small town, we only really know what people from Brookfield face, which I have learned is very, very different from what the world around us is trying to solve. Because of this church, I have been able to expand my horizons and meet people outside of our little town. It has allowed me to travel to Camden, New York, Eagle Butte, South Dakota, and this summer to Maine. Through this time, I have found out what the meaning of a church is. It is about helping one another grow in our own faith. To me, I learn from God best through helping someone else, and this church has allowed me to do that. In August, I will be heading up to Springfield, Massachusetts to study secondary education in English at Western New England University. My hopes of becoming a teacher has really come out of this environment. I want to make a difference in someone else's life through education, because the summer in South Dakota has taught me that education is a structure of support for anyone and truly a luxury to most. So I thank you for making my college decision easier and also teaching me ways of life that will prepare me for my next 4 years at school. I've learned to appreciate myself and know that I am not alone in anything I will do because of the support you have given me. Ellen DeGeneres famously said, "I do not live in fear. I'm free, I have no secrets, and I'll always be okay because no matter what, I know who I am. And because of this environment and community, I know who I am." And furthermore, I'd like to thank all of you for providing a place where anyone can learn, grow, be supported, and have a place of acceptance. Thank you.
My name is Jane Moran, and I am also graduating this year, only from Newtown High School. Now, I was actually baptized in King Street Church in Danbury, according to my parents. To be honest, I don't really remember it. Okay. My family didn't start attending church with any regularity, though, until I was 6 years old. Up until that time, my experience with organized religion was confined to my Children's Illustrated Bible and the churches I saw whenever my parents took me for a car ride. They were Trinity Church and the Meeting House in Newtown, which stand right across the street from each other. And there was also the church where I was baptized, which was by far my favorite church to drive past. I would press my face to the car window and say, "Mommy, Mommy, look at all that play stuff." The King Street Church's preschool was blessed with a multitude of plastic jungle gyms and swings and playhouses, all on display in front of the church as if to tantalize passing children. "Mommy, someday you should let me play there. I could play there, and you could go into that building and shop." I had no idea what people actually did in a church, but I figured shopping was a fair guess. Most buildings adults frequented, in my experience, were dedicated to buying things of one sort or another. By the time my parents announced seemingly out of the blue that on Sunday morning we were going to a church in Brookfield, I had a better idea of what churches were for. They were like the opposite of stores, in that you went into them to enhance your spirituality rather than to satisfy materialistic cravings. In other ways, though, my reaction to going to church for the first time was strikingly similar to my reaction to driving past churches on my way to somewhere else entirely. Church was my parents' thing, something they were taking me along for because they knew my sister and I would pitch a pair of hissy fits if they left us with a babysitter. If anyone had told me then that church would end up playing such a big role in my life, I wouldn't have understood what they were talking about. Over the last 11 years, though, I have developed a great appreciation for this church. I have had excellent Sunday school teachers, such as Mrs. Lenyart, who let us bake scones, even though I really have no idea how to bake and still don't, and Mr. McGovern, who always supplied me with a new Bible whenever I wore an old one out. It is from the church that I have learned values that, while not exclusive to Christianity, should certainly be the values of all Christians. I have learned to love people not for what they can give me, but for who they are. I have learned to show kindness to strangers. The evidence of these values is all around us in the church, but you can see it outside of the church if you look. A A couple of weeks ago, I was washing my hands at a sink in school, and I looked up and I saw a note taped to the mirror. It said, "If you left a ring here, it's in the office," and there was a big smiley face drawn under the words. I smiled when I saw it, then I turned the tap off and tore a roll of brown paper towels. For some reason, though, the memory of that note stuck with me, and I wondered what I would have done if I had been the one who found that ring. I knew I would never have taken it, and I probably would have brought it to the office too, but would I have left a note? Honestly, I don't think it ever would have occurred to me, and if it had, I probably wouldn't have taken the extra time to do it. Next time someone leaves something on a restroom sink, though, I will think of it, and I'll do it. It's a small thing to do, but small things like that are part of what it means to be a good person. Anyone can remember to send money to feed the starving children, but sometimes it's harder to remember to carry groceries for old ladies in parking lots. CCB has opened my eyes to people's goodness and has made me want to be a part of it. I am by nature a cynic, but over the course of the 11 years I've spent in this church, I've come to believe that working together, we really will make the world a better place. I suppose it's possible I could have reached those conclusions on my own, but I don't believe it. If I hadn't been raised to have faith in God, I don't think I would have much faith in other people either. Honestly, I don't think I can say anything better about our church than that. Thank you.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kathryn Marron, and I will be graduating from Brookfield High School with the class of 2011 in 13 days, 6 hours, and plus or minus a few minutes. My family moved to Brookfield and began attending this church when I was a preschooler, and this church has been my home ever since. Growing up, I looked forward to every Time for Children, pancake breakfast, church fair, and Christmas pageant. And even now, I still actively participate in activities such as the fair and Senior Youth Fellowship. I don't think it is easy to put into words what this church has meant to me over the years. High school is a time where you begin to explore who you are, and more importantly, who you want to become. This means establishing core values and beliefs that define what you stand for. This church has been a solid foundation to help shape those beliefs and values in my own life. This church has also been a foundation of support through the years for my family and I. In 2001, the terrorist attacks of 9/11 impacted all of us as we witnessed immense suffering of our fathers, mothers, siblings, and friends. I personally witnessed the heartache of my dad as he mourned the loss of coworkers and good friends. And I, being only about 8 years old, was terrified of the idea of my dad returning to work each day afterwards. Yet my family felt reassured thanks to the support felt by such a strong church community. About 2 years ago, when my grandpa, Tom Aker, who was also a member of this church and a man of immense faith, passed away suddenly, it was the hardest thing I've ever gone through. Yet I never felt alone due to the love and overflow of support from the members of this church. I feel lucky and truly blessed to be surrounded by love and support from such a strong community of faith. The church has also helped me to understand the importance of giving back to community. Getting ready to leave on my 4th mission trip this summer to Maine, I have realized how grateful I am to have such wonderful opportunities to go on these trips. I can honestly say that the trip to Eagle Butte, South Dakota was one of the most significant experiences of my life, and it opened my eyes to the world around me. Without the organization, thoughtful planning, and dedication of all the adults here, I and several other youth would not have been able to experience such meaningful trips that give back to the people who need it the most. So as I get ready to embark to the University of Connecticut to study pharmacy in a few months, I will always know that my church family is here and my support system in Brookfield at this church. In a wise commencement speech given at the Yale University by Tom Hanks, he states that each morning we are faced with both fear and faith, and we have to decide which of those we will react to. My faith has grown and strengthened thanks to this church, and every morning when I wake up, I will choose faith and can confidently react to the experiences and decisions I will be faced with in college. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Markowitz. You've probably seen me here before. I've been a Christian my whole life. Since I was little, I've attended church almost every single service of worship on Sunday mornings. I've been to potluck dinners, youth groups, breakfasts, all that jazz. But up until the past few years, I never really understood what faith meant to me. I grew up in Great Hill United Methodist Church in Seymour, Connecticut. I lived in Oxford, and it was a church about half the size of this church. So when I came here, I was pretty overwhelmed. My mom suggested we try a bell choir for a week. So for the next 7 years, I played bells. I also joined the youth group, which I participated in for about 4 or 5 years, and I went on a mission trip to Louisiana. Brookfield Congregational also showed me one of the most important places of my life, which was Silver Lake. After 3 years of attendance as a camper, I decided to apply for Camp Family, which is a part of staff that does a lot of dishes and cleans a lot of bathrooms. This sounds like tons of fun, but I learned how a close-knit community works. All of us on Camp Family learned how to deal with 14 other tired, smelly, whiny 16 and 17-year-olds for 8 straight weeks. We learned about nature and its importance and how to appreciate God. This is where my faith journey begins. Up until Silver Lake, I had never thought twice about the presence of God. We all hear stories about being touched by God, and I was just waiting for my time. When I arrived at Silver Lake, plenty of the veteran staff members had found their niche, and it actually made me really jealous. But after 4 or so weeks of running down a rain-soaked hill, pitch black, screaming unnecessarily about who knows what, we began to question why we were all working at the lake. We all slept about 6 hours a day, and worked over 12 hours a day, and dealt with some pretty awful kids. Most of all, us on Camp Family pretty much complained about everything, and we all felt like the guy next to us was probably trying to get away with working less than he should. I don't doubt that about 10 out of 15 kids thought about quitting. I did at one point. But one early August morning, I woke up to a surprisingly bright sun. That past night, I'd been careless and left the door slightly ajar, so all the critters could join us all in our beds. Luckily, I was right next to the door, so I got a bed full of ants and spiders. I woke up basically screaming, but as soon as the sun hit my face, I looked at the lake, which is called Mudge Pond. You wonder why it's called Silver Lake. And stopped dead on the porch. It was only about 5:30, but the sun was shining down on the lake. I had never seen it that early in the morning. And the lake was almost red in the early sun, and the birds were chirping, and it was pretty magical. I was so amazed at the beauty that I finally understood the magic of why everybody loved Silver Lake. The rest of the summer breezed by fairly quickly, and I came home to parents expecting my room to be cleaned like it had never been cleaned before. Well, I guess that happened eventually, but what? It's not clean now. But what changed in me was how I saw life. That summer taught me to look at things much differently, and it gave me a lot of confidence I needed for the rest of my life right now. After coming home from Silver Lake, my church life had changed. I became a full-time choir member, and I started to actually listen to and enjoy sermons. Thank you, Jen. I've made a lot of friends in this community, and it's pretty much a second home to me. This church helped me through these years to find my calling. With bells, choir, and numerous talent shows, I found ways to express my musical creativity. I've even decided in majoring in music at a college called Eastern Nazarene in Quincy, Mass. Yes, it's a Christian college, but I've learned that they're not so scary. I doubt I would have chosen ENC if I didn't have that major, music, of course, but a small Christian college looks a lot like the community-driven Silver Lake, if you ask me. So thank you, everybody who's helped me, because, it means a lot to me.